friends, it's me, Kelsey, and I am finally getting around to doing my November wrap-up. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books in November, and we're going to talk about, well, all of them, but some of them are like chunked together. So let's go. I started out by reading Mercy, the next in the Salacious Players Club. And so far, this was my least favorite in the Salacious Players Club. I'll put it right here. I don't know. I loved the idea of it. Beau's story arc, I was so excited for. I was excited for him and Maggie. I've heard great things about this book. All of my friends really loved this book, but I don't know, maybe the anticipation was too high for me. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood for it. This really fell flat for me. I just felt like I didn't like them as a couple. I don't know. I just didn't feel them as a couple compared to the other couples in the series. Like, I just didn't. And I don't know why. I really, really, really love some of the other couples in the series. And so for them to just, I didn't feel like they were organic. I didn't feel like they were natural. I didn't feel like they had that, I don't know. I love the idea of her being the dom in the relationship. I love the idea of them both exploring that they're not naturally those a dom and a sub, and the fact that they're like both new to those roles. I loved that element of it. I loved the element that she was exploring her sexuality in a way that she was new to, even though she owned the sex club. And I loved the idea that he had this grand story arc from the first book where he was kind of the villain, I guess, in the Emerson and Charlie story to getting his redemption story in this book. I love those elements of it. But again, I just didn't click with them as a couple. And everybody really likes this. So I don't know. I gave this a 3.75. It is what it is. So it was kind of a bummer to start the month out with that. But then I read Lights Out. And actually, I listened to Lights Out, and holy cow, this book redeemed its, like, I loved this book. This book was funny. This book was witty. This book was everything that I needed in the moment. So the premise of this book is that he is a stalker of her. So she likes to watch kinky, masked guy on the internet, and he finds out about her and he stalks the shit out of her. But he's like a cinnamon roll. Like, that sounds so like weird that your stalker is like a cinnamon roll, but he really is. Josh in this is like, I don't know how to explain it other than he's just a cinnamon roll. And Allie is in need of some like real TLC. She's an emergency room nurse. She's got some real deep shit going on in her life. And Josh just comes in and like loves on her and takes care of her. And like, the best way I can explain it is like one night she has like a horrible night at work, and he like shows up and brings her food and like takes her home from work. And like, even though he like saw her that she had a horrible night at work by like tapping into her work's cameras and was watching her while she was at work and like stalking her, he was still there for her after her horrible night at work when she really needed someone to be there to help her because her horrible night was like horrible. And like, I don't know. It was so funny. And their banter in this book is hilarious. They're like, I ate this shit up. I don't know how else to tell you that I ate this shit up. It was so good. I gave this a 4.25. I loved it. 10 out of 10. You should read this book. Like, please do. Then I had another miss. I have been reading the Never After books by Emily McIntyre, and I finally got my hands on the next one in the series, which was Crossed. And this is the Hunchback of Notre Dame retelling. And this follows Cade, and I have to even look because I did not like this, Amara. I read about, I don't even know if I read 100 pages of this book before I DNF'd it. I could not get into the characters in this book to save my life. I don't even think I made it 100 pages in. I could not get into the characters. I could not get into the story. I could not get into the plot. I just could not wrap my... So I could not tell you anything about this book other than I own it because I will own the whole series. And I've loved the other Never After books. I've loved Twisted. I've loved Scarred. I've loved Hooked. Like, I've loved the other ones. So this is such a surprise to me that this one just like, I don't know if it was just the wrong time for me. I really believe that books are about timing and that you have to read the right book at the right time. So I don't know if I just picked it up and I was just not in the mood for a dark romance. This was a dark romance and I ate this up. So I was shocked that I DNF'd this, but I did because I got 100 pages in and I could not connect with anything that was going on. The plot, the characters, nothing. And I don't have time to not connect with a book on any level. So DNF. So after I DNF'd a book and I had I'd only read 3 books and 2 of them were kind of busts for me. I didn't know what to do. I was kind of in a reading slump. And when I'm in a reading slump, I usually go back to something that makes me feel good, something that makes me feel fuzzy, something that makes me feel warm. And I didn't know what to do. So I decided I was going to embark on reading through something that makes me feel good. So I picked up the entire Windsor Brothers series. The entire series. I read all of them. Woo! I read all of them. I started with The Wrong Bride, The Temporary Wife, The Unwanted Marriage, The Broken Vow, The Secret Fiancé, and then The Devious Husband. So, I have read all of these books before. They are go-to books for me. They are, Katerina Mora, she's one of my favorite authors. I love her. I love her writing. These are all fantastic books. They are all 4-star, 4.5 star, 5-star. There are several 2 5-star books in this series, 3 5-star books in this series for me. So like, you can look at my ratings. I've rated them all before, but I'll give you kind of little synopsis of this. This is Raven and Eris's book. They're all arranged marriages. And they're all billionaire series. So that's this. Raven ends up having to marry Eris because her sister doesn't. And so that happens with this. And she's loved her, Eris, for a really long time. Her sister ends up breaking off their engagement and she has to step in and marry Eris in place of her sister. That is this book. So good. It kicks off the series so well. Eris is the oldest of the Windsor brothers. All of the Windsor kids lost their parents in a plane crash that happens off page of the book several years prior to this, when they were all young, and they're all raised by their grandma. Their grandma arranges all the marriages. This is the first one. This is my all-time favorite Windsor brother book. This is Val and Luca. It is not only arranged marriage in the sense that it is arranged by the grandma, but it is boss employee. Val is Luca's secretary, and some stuff happens, and Val has to marry Luca to save her grandma from things that are going on. And Luca and Val get married, and oh my gosh, this is my favorite one. This is Dion and Faye. Dion and Faye have been engaged since they were young. Dion and Faye were Faye and Dion have been engaged the longest. They were engaged from childhood. And they are struggling to figure out how to make this all work because they've been arranged to be married since they were children. And what do you do with that? And how do you cope with that? And there's just some trigger warnings with this book. Because when you've been engaged to be married since you were children, sometimes your family doesn't always handle that well. And her family in particular does not handle that well. This one is The Broken Vow. This is Celeste and Zane. Zane and Celeste tried to break the mold, and they fell in love when they were in high school, and Zane really wanted to marry Celeste, but then some tragic things happen, and they end up not together, and years later, their families force them to get married so that their hotel fortunes can come together to make one giant hotel chain. And how do they deal with the tragedy of their past from their past and still move forward. This is enemies to lovers. It's romance. It's lovers to enemies to lovers. It's good. This one is The Secret Fiance. This one is Age Gap. I think this one's Age Gap too. This one is Age Gap. This one is Professor and Student. This one is He Fell First, He Fell Hardest, He Fell Deepest. He has some like stuff that he has to overcome in order to prove to her that Lex is so fun. Lex is probably one of my favorites. I love Lex. He Fell First, He Fell Hardest, He Fell Deepest. And they have two companies that they're trying to merge together to create one, and she's trying to overcome her insecurities of being just not enough in a world where women are often looked down upon, and it's just really good. This one is The Only Girl in the Whole Family is Sierra. She's the daughter, and she is marries her nemesis, essentially. And how do you overcome that? And how do you overcome your insecurity when you have great insecurity? And this one was actually my least favorite, which is so bummer. But there you go. I read all of those. They're all fantastic books. Fantastic. Even my least favorite was still fantastic. Like I said, multiple 5-star books. Let's see, 5-star books that in this series are The Wrong Bride is a 5-star. The Temporary Wife is a 5-star. The Unwanted Marriage is a 5-star. The Broken Vow is a 4-star. The Secret Fiance is a 4.5-star. And The Devious Marriage is a 4-star. So that's how you do that. So those are all the books that I read in November. December is already starting out to roll into being a fun month filled with some fun books. I'm doing a couple of vlogs. I'm doing a Christmas vlog. I'm reading the Christmas Notch books by Sierra Simone and Julie Murphy, and I'll be vlogging those along the way. I've got a couple of wrap-ups coming up about the year, about fun things that I'm doing. I'm doing a Christmas tag. Lots of videos coming to the channel, so stick around and see what's happening. But until next time, friends, bye-bye.